I made some stupid comments about Charlie Kirk on the day that he was shot. I said some things on Blue Sky and on Threads that I I'm sorry not sorry for, but I said them and I deleted them when it was requested that I do so by my employer. And then today on a weekend, I'm told that I am no longer employed at Microsoft. After 6 years, building the diversity, equity, and inclusion department from scratch, I lose my job because one of you, some random person, reports my posts to my employer, goes out of their way to find out where I work, and takes my job, takes my security away from me for a thought, for an opinion. And you talk about freedom of speech like you care about it, and you're just going to take my money, my life, my food off my plate because I don't like Charlie Kirk? That's not okay. It is not okay to target me because I felt joy that day. I can't help how I feel. I felt joy. That's me. That's what I believe. That's what I think of him. I can't help that. So I don't deserve a job?
A lot of people are making comments about Charlie Kirk's unalive, and it has brought them a lot of scrutiny. Some are getting fired, some are getting suspended, some are losing their livelihood. I came across a video of a man who was practically crying, and he said he has the freedom to speak or say or write anything he wants to write. That all because he commented or posted about Charlie Kirk's unaliving, and he lost his job. And now the question is, I want us to talk about the fact that people are being fired or suspended because they spoke about Charlie Kirk's unaliving. We're going to be diving into why they were suspended or fired. Is it constitutionally right or wrong? We will be getting to know all of that, and that is why I'm doing this post so that we can talk about it and see what the law says about it. Credits are given to our content in this video, and of course, I have great videos for you as regarding this topic. So let's go watch it. And of course, if you love it, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share because a lot of people need to be informed about when you make comments, the implication, and what it means. So this video is primarily for educational purpose. And of course, don't forget to share it. I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.
Looks like a lot of people are losing their jobs because they made public comments, posts, things like that on social media about the murder of Charlie Kirk. Now, isn't that against the Constitution? Isn't there freedom of speech, right? Well, I am so glad you asked. Let's take a look at the text real quick. My name is Eurip Morgan, and I am an attorney. Here's what the text of the First Amendment actually says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech. It says more, but for our purposes, this is what's really important. So there it is. You know what the most important part of that is? The first word, Congress. The First Amendment applies to Congress not making certain laws. It does not apply necessarily to your employer, and this is why you're seeing that a lot of people are losing their jobs. You know, your employer can't actually pay you if they don't make money. And if they have employees that are out here making public, visible posts online that could, I don't know, piss off a good amount of their customer base, we shouldn't be surprised that they let those employees go. And no, that isn't necessarily a violation of freedom of speech, like I said, practically, because the First Amendment specifically is related to Congress, not your employer. And I keep saying necessarily because some employers are government, obviously. But the reality is that I think a lot of people have misunderstood what the First Amendment says and also forgotten that you can still have a public opinion. The people who are getting fired are not being prohibited from making their opinions public. They are, however, being reminded that there are consequences for expressing your opinion publicly. And the First Amendment was never intended to stop people from having consequences for our actions. It was intended to curtail the government. And, it's kind of crazy to me that so many people have forgotten that there really are consequences to what we do. Teachers specifically, right? There have been a number of teachers who have made public statements on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and they're getting fired. That one, I think, is also shouldn't be a huge surprise, because you're talking about a profession that literally teaches children. And let's be honest, it's not just math and reading and science. You teach children how to behave, how to function in society, critical thinking skills, judgment. And if my daughter's third grade teacher doesn't have the wherewithal or lacks critical thinking, and doesn't have the wherewithal to say that, hey, I feel a certain way about a specific topic, but just because I feel a certain way about something, maybe I don't have to publicly express it. You can still retain your opinion, but you don't have to publicly express it. That is having good judgment. If you've got teachers who are out here, making these statements and then walking into a classroom, it really does make me worry about, how can you teach kids to think critically if you're not exhibiting the same behavior yourself? So it's not a surprise to me that a lot of people are losing their jobs, and that they are facing significant backlash. Again, it's not because you had the opinion necessarily, it's because you expressed it publicly, and that public expression shows a significant lack of judgment and critical thinking. And you know what? It's not unconstitutional, but it should make us think twice about what we do in the public sphere.
Teachers across the country are being suspended or fired over their online post about Charlie Kirk. But what's happening here is so much bigger than this. For years now, there has been a coordinated campaign to paint teachers as dangerous or untrustworthy. We've seen it in book bans, we've seen it in laws restricting what can be taught, we've seen it in doxing campaigns run by people like Chaya Raichik, and now we are seeing it again. But to really understand what's happening, we need to zoom out. Charlie Kirk was one of the architects of treating faculty as enemies to be defeated. He turned college campuses into cultural battlegrounds, and he built the playbook for the broader assault on public education that we're seeing now. Of course, that battle goes way back, but he has shaped how it appears now in the culture war. Now, in the days after his death, we are watching a wave of teachers being punished for a wide range of online posts. Charlie Kirk built his career on saying controversial things. He wielded his First Amendment right every single day. But teachers who post their own reactions are punished for using that same right. That asymmetry has bothered me for years, but it has never worried me more than it does right now. For example, there is now a website where people are submitting names of teachers or students who have said almost anything after his death. There are people on there simply denouncing political violence, and they're on there. The far right is promising to build this into a searchable database of tens of thousands of names sorted by location and job industry. So not just on Twitter, this is now a permanent blacklist. So think about that. Charlie Kirk built his platform on free speech. Now adults are being doxxed and put on watch lists for exercising that same right in a space that has absolutely nothing to do with their job. State officials are threatening to yank licenses from teachers, and they're saying that students who are caught speaking about things that are deemed unsavory will never become teachers and will never be allowed to have their license to teach. What's striking to me is a double standard between progressive or liberal and conservative teachers. If you haven't noticed, conservative figures can spread open hate or disinformation without professional consequence. And yes, I have seen teachers doing this. They go on Fox News, they come on the TikTok and the Twitter and share their thoughts, and nobody's patrolling their Reddit accounts, their 4chan accounts, their whatever, wherever they're saying the things that they say. There is not a massive doxing campaign going on for teachers on the right. Not saying there should be, but isn't that interesting? And there is a chilling effect to this selective punishment. If we follow this thread, we can imagine that we will not see teachers speaking out about things like gun violence and racism and LGBTQIA plus issues. And these are the exact issues that Kirk and Turning Point have spent years trying to drive out of schools. Turning Point has stoked the flames and turned public trust away from teachers for years. And you bet they will continue to do so as they and the Twitter sphere turn their eyes on the education system and blame it for radicalization. The president has stated that they are going to go after these leftist organizations. And what do they consider a leftist organization? Is public education one of those organizations? If we look at the press releases and the executive orders and the actions we have seen this administration take since January, I sure think it could mean the education system. So again, I am not defending cruel or violent social media comments or text messages, but I am seeing teachers disciplined and doxxed and blacklisted for posts that were not violent. They may have just been critical. And that is the part that exposes the double standard to me. This just feels like a witch hunt, and it's dangerous. And it's just words, right?
If you say anything about Charlie Kirk online that your employer does not like and they fire you, there may not be much you can do about that. My name is Paige Sparks. I'm an employment lawyer, and this makes my eye twitch. Misstated all over the internet. You don't have an absolute freedom of speech against everyone for everything. Your constitutional rights, like the Bill of Rights, which includes the First Amendment freedom of speech, primarily protects you from the government, not against individual people or private entities. The U.S. Constitution limits the government's power. It is not meant to regulate private behavior in between people or in between businesses that have nothing to do with the government. I'll give you an example. If you make a public post online saying, "Fuck the government," a cop cannot show up at your door and arrest you for saying that. That is a violation of your First Amendment freedom of speech. As an employer, I'm a private entity. I have nothing to do with the government. So if my wonderful law clerk says, "Fuck Paige Sparks" online on a public post, I could fire her for that and there's nothing she could do. There are, of course, some exceptions, like if a private entity is acting on behalf of the government, or if you are a municipal employee and technically you have a government entity employer. But in general, you only have the freedom of speech protected against the government, not other people. I have actually sued the government before for violations of freedom of speech. Speech does not have to be just spoken to be protected. Actions can be considered speech too, like burning the flag, or if you flash your lights to warn other people of a cop sitting on the side of the road, that is also protected speech. Comment to let me know what other questions you have about the law. If you see people saying this incorrectly online, now you know.
This girl was fired after being publicly doxxed and people calling into her work, letting her bosses know that she was celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. She mentioned that it got so bad that even some of her coworkers were being harassed, people calling the business, harassing them, harassing her, so they had to let her go. Now, since then, she posted a video online of her crying over her newly lost job and started a GoFundMe and made over $4,000 in 20 minutes. I don't know how much she's made now, but it really seems like the new civil war is not what people thought it would be. It's people calling into people's work to get them fired, hoping that they can destroy them financially instead of physically.
Today, I've contacted over 700 different employers of people who've been celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder.
On one side, we have the right-wing police who are getting people fired for celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and we have crying liberals on the left.
And I'm not going to let this silence me, and I don't know what you MAGA losers thought you were going to get.
But what do you guys think about all this?
Now, the question is, why would someone be fired from just commenting or posting about Charlie Kirk's unaliving? From the videos we've watched, a lot of people have spoken about it. That the amendment, right, according to the Constitution, the First Amendment, right, according to the Constitution of America, simply posts that you have freedom of speech against the government. And of course, you saw the lady that she even elucidated on it. She said, from the Congress, which simply means that if you are working in government's parastatal, you are working with the government does not have the right to fire you because you are protected from the government. But in a situation where you're working in a private entity, which the law does not cover that, because the people have customers and clients that have different views and opinions about what just happened. And a staff of that company is posting about what the client didn't support, or maybe a stakeholder of the company. It's an implication of where it is going to. So the private entity, because of its affiliation, have the right to say, why did you post about it? Because our client base is being affected. As small as the client base, it looks so minute, but the sales and the patronage of a company can be affected by just that single post from a staff that is working in that company. They can say, this is what you believe, but we don't believe this. You have a different opinion about what happened. They may be angry with your company for not speaking against the staff that spoke up against their own interest. And that's how it works. So the law does not cover private entity or private companies. And that is why it looks as if some people have been fired because they spoke about Charlie Kirk's unaliving. So if we go by the law truly, you are not safe to speak against any individual. You're only safe to speak against the government or for the government. Government can't sue you. They can't do anything. But when it has to do with individual, person to person, individual to individual, that law does not cover that. So that is why a lot of people have been fired. A lot of people have been suspended. And someone is saying, I have freedom of speech. I can say or speak or write anything I want to write. You must know what the law typifies. You must know exactly what the law says. And you must be careful. And a lot of Americans have been fired and are still been fired because some are still saying that this is my right, is my this, is my that. When you know the real interpretation of what the Constitution says, then you can speak freely. But if you don't, it's better to just stay safe and play safe. And let me just have one or two things from my own opinion, because I feel strongly that Kirk frankly has come to become, whether I like it or not, it speaks for the Republican. And whether you like it or not, the Republicans are the ones in power right now. And if you speak anything that is contrary to their belief or opinion, watch yourself, because even if you are not working with the government, a lot can be done because you are speaking against the power that be. And sometimes wisdom is profitable to direct, because if you speak anyhow, you might see anyhow. Well, I would like to just hear your opinion, guys. What do you think about this constitutional amendment act about freedom of speech? What do you think? Are people playing outside of the law? Are people, do people have the right to speak against the government or speak against individual, knowing fully well they're not working with the government or they are working in the private entity? What is your take? What is your view? Let the conversation begin, guys, at the comment section, because I've been waiting for your responses and opinions, because this is an interesting topic that people should know about, and people need to be enlightened as to what the law says. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm so grateful for all your likes and your comments. I want to say thank you to all my new subscribers and all my old subscribers. Thank you. You guys are the real MVP. Until I come your way again, stay in peace, pursue peace, and cheers. Bye-bye.